Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Friday, August 8th, 2025, and I've got the amazing Warren Bowman here of BWOne. Hey, Warren, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you guys doing on a Friday?
Oh, it's Friday. It's always nice. Thanks for being on the show. It's been a quiet news week. It feels like we're in that magical lull between the Samsung unloading their stuff and Google, right? Google's next, obviously.
This is a rare thing now, because back in the day, you used to have the summertime where it was that kind of that small lull. Now it's just like, maybe you get a few weeks, maybe.
Yeah, well, honestly, I feel like it's going to be exciting. I'm a big Pixel fan girl. I don't know if you know this, but for me, Pixel's always been my thing. With all its flaws, kind of like I always joke around on the podcast saying that, I'm kind of held hostage by Pixel, like it's Stockholm syndrome or whatever they call it, where my captors treat me well, so I'm happy, with the abuse or whatever, with the problems I'm having with the platform. But look, there's a bunch of rumors around Apple, a bunch of rumors about Samsung, a bunch of rumors around obviously Pixel. So let's dive into some of those, and then I've got a couple of interesting tidbits of news that I got to get your thoughts on. I don't know how much you cover Chinese devices or Chinese, not market, but Chinese international market devices, like some of the Vivo, Oppo, Xiaomi phones and stuff like that. I do. And so there's some news around that I want to talk about briefly. Of course, OnePlus is part of that, even though they're a well-known Western brand. There's some rumors there. And then some interesting Snapdragon rumors as well. So let's dive in. All right. I think the first thing is probably to talk. Let's get some Samsung stuff out of the way. I also want to get a bit of your take on the Z Fold7. I know you have one. We've covered it to death, but I kind of want to focus on maybe things like, durability and repairability, because those are some of the things that now that they've been some torture tests out there and some people taking them apart. And what's been your experience with durability, for example? Like, have you dropped your device? Is it fine? If you haven't, how do you feel about the hinge?
I actually haven't dropped my device. Fortunately, I haven't had that sort of that issue yet. This is technically my first foldable I'm using as like a full-time, my main device. So,
okay.
And I haven't put up my coverage just yet on it because I kind of want to get a certain objective view that doesn't include sort of that honeymoon period or that period that you're in when you first kind of get the device. It's got some really interesting thoughts about it. But the hinge has actually been good. It's one of the things that I remember when I know they changed the hinge, because they showed that at the event. That they made some improvements to it. And one of the things that I first noticed that it was harder to open it, like not super hard, but because there's no indentations on the sides of the phone.
Agreed.
It's a little harder to just open it and pop it up. You get used to it, but that was one of the things that I noticed. The hinge itself isn't noticeable. Like, I was watching some content yesterday at a bar, and I just kind of opened up the phone full on, just right there on the bar, leaned it on a lamp or something like that, and it looked just fine. I didn't notice the hinge or anything like that, but just kind of probably the lighting in there is the ideal setting for that type of situation.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's been good. I haven't had too many problems with it. That was just the one thing I just noticed with it. I know some people might complain because you'll see the hinge, and if you put it directly on the screen, you're going to see that sort of hinge line in between there. But I don't think that's something that's unavoidable right now. I know there's talks of newer tech coming out for the future phones that are supposed to kind of help with that. But for me, it's been a good experience.
So it's interesting. I didn't realize this was your first foldable, in a serious use case for you, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually a pretty awesome way to start, dude. Like you're hitting it right into 7 years in or 6 years in, 7th gen. Look, the thing that's interesting to me is I did not have the first one, but I've had pretty much some minimal time with the 2, 3, 4, and then proper time with 5, 6, and obviously 7. But then because I get a lot of the Chinese market phones, I've had time with all the Chinese phones. And this is going to sound like a broken record for people who have listened to the podcast for the last 4 shows or something, but the Chinese have been way ahead of Samsung, and Samsung's really just catching up. Like the dimension, right?
I've noticed that too.
Yeah.
You're very aware of that.
So the dimensions of this phone are awesome, like thinness, weight, whatever. But they are only, weight is still better than anybody else, but by very little. But dimensions are about in line with what China delivered about between a year and 6 months ago. A year with the Honor Magic V3, which is now being replaced by the Magic V5, which is even smaller. And then with the Oppo Find N5, which I used before this for an entire 4.5, almost 5 months. So since February. So I, kind of am coming from the form factor is no longer wowing me kind of aspect. Also, all the Chinese phones have always had a front screen that was 21:9, so it always felt like a regular phone when it's closed. Even
that was
when
my big thing.
Yeah, even when they were a little thicker, right? Even the OnePlus Open, which is essentially the previous Oppo phone from that series, was, even the Pixel 9 Pro Fold from last year, like they're a bit thicker, but they still feel like normal phones in your hand. So to me, none of that surprised me. But what really did surprise me a little more was, and I think Samsung did a really good job, is that square design. Like I like square phones. I'm kind of a little bummed actually that the S25 Ultra has rounded corners a little bit now. And, I was kind of hoping they'd stay with that monolithic vibe, but I get it. It's uncomfortable in your pocket. It's pokey and stuff. This is a smaller phone, so it's a little more manageable. But back to what you were saying, and we talked with Jason Howell on the podcast about this last week, the difficulty of opening it. You're right, you get used to it, but it's definitely, that's the time when I worry I'm going to drop it, right? And so we were talking about that last week. So he's thinking maybe like some little indents, but I'm thinking of like some out dents. So like, little bumps on like etched in the metal that stick out, kind of like, grips basically. They're just very thin, like just some 0.5 millimeter thickness, just
small little
three of them, like 3 dots on each side of the edge. That would solve the problem. But
I agree.
Look,
that would.
That's next year, But compared to the Chinese phones, the thing that are still kind of like Samsung still needs to catch up is the battery capacity, like 4400. It's fine, but it's not great. By the way, folks, for those of you who are listen to the podcast every week, I did finally publish my review on Hot Hardware on Monday. So just after last week's podcast. So go to hothardware.com, check out my review. If you want my in-depth thoughts on this phone, the Z Fold7, I had a lot to say, 2,700 words. It's a deep dive. But my big thing about battery life was, it's barely squeezing by. Like it's actually worse for me than the Edge because I use the inner screen a lot. If you use the outer screen more, I think you'll probably be okay. But the point is that the Chinese, like the Oppo have 5,600 milliamp hours. The V3 or the V5 right now, actually, 5,800 milliamp hour. And there's silicon carbon batteries. And then the cameras too, that telephoto isn't really, like it's just not good enough for a $2,000 phone. And I feel like, when the Chinese are delivering like these 50 megapixel, 3x or 5x telephotos, and even Google with their relatively small 10 point, whatever it is, 8 megapixel telephoto, it's a 5x and it's got all of Google's image processing goodness in there. And so it's kind of sad to say that, but the main sensor is amazing on the Z Fold7, and they should have kept it to that. They should have actually removed the telephoto like they did on the Edge and just let it be and said, next year we'll do the telephoto again. But I know that they couldn't because they would look bad, right? $2,000 phone without telephoto. But the point is that telephoto is a big disappointment. I think that, Pixel does a better job with last year's phone, their folding phone, that, the Chinese do a better job. And so that's the only complaints I have about these. But let's talk durability. I haven't dropped mine either yet. I'm waiting for some cases I've ordered, but I didn't order them. They're review cases, but like they haven't arrived. So I've been living life dangerously. It's not that I want a case on my phones, but especially review units when I'm like, in this case, I've taken all my photos, so I'm good now. But for that time before my review was published, I was worried every time I was using it. I was like, do not drop it, do not drop it, do not drop it, right?
I know what you mean.
Because what it means is that then I can't take my photos. And of course, you could say, why don't you take your photos right away? Well, in an ideal world, I would, but I'm not, sometimes I'm busy with other things. So anyway, the point is, durability hasn't been an issue for me. It feels really solid. I think that we got to give credit to Samsung I feel like they're making the most durable foldables right now. Like, I'm a big fan of Moto. Personally, I would pick the Moto Razer over the Z Flip first. Still, especially the Razer Ultra, which I have, and I've reviewed them all over the last few years, because of the ability to actually use the front screen with apps. But that being said, you can feel the hinge difference. It's good on Moto. Like, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say don't buy a Moto because of durability. No, but the Z Flip, you feel like you could throw that thing around without a case all day long and nothing bad would happen to it. Well, I'm not quite sure the Moto would survive, especially, we've seen what Michael Fisher's experienced with his Motos, with the front screen, the cover screen, shattering and stuff. So I think they've nailed that. And then, we've seen, and I think I mentioned it for the Fold before, but now we have a flip test done by JRig Everything, Zach. And Zach, as we know, is the torturer of all phones. Oh, yeah. And you saw the videos, right? Like, he tried to bend them backwards, both the Fold and the Flip 7, and they wouldn't belge. Like, I was like, what?
Well, I'm sure Samsung's engineers were specifically targeting him at this point. Like,
that's not a bad strategy, right?
Not a bad strategy at all, because he's so well known for that. Like, a bend test is like something that if you say that, he's going to be the first thing that pops up in the Google durability test. He's probably going to be the first video that pops up in Google. So to try to pass a test from him isn't a bad idea. And I think they did great improvements to this hinge, quite a bit with it. Battery life for me, when you were talking about it, has been fine for me, but I'm also an outer screen person, more so than an inner screen person. And this is literally this Fold 7 would be the first time I'd feel comfortable using a Fold because of the outer display. Because
you're right. Because it's actually usable.
It's actually usable. Most foldables prior to that have this awkward dimension outer screen that just, it's not, it doesn't feel
it was really only a Samsung thing. Every other, the first Pixel was passport shaped. The first Oppo was also passport shaped. But other than that, everyone in China align on a 21:9 standard aspect ratio.
That's like the standard aspect ratio that we're all used to. So it's like I never understood why Samsung went in this weird direction.
100%, especially last year with the Z Fold 6, because everybody had already shown the way. Like at that point, like, come on. Like, how could you not anticipate when you were planning this phone, looking at the competition?
To me, the big thing now I'm thinking about it, they're missing is super fast charging.
As soon as you have silicon carbon batteries, that comes with the territory, right? So that's kind of like the fun part about it. Silicon carbon gives you the ability to charge much faster and with less damage and with less risk. And so I think that's like, again, as you said, Oppo, that one charges at 80 watt wired, 50 watt wireless, right? I believe the Magic V5 is 66. And so, I think that's something that when Samsung decides to go next time on, a better, bigger battery capacity, they also need to at least give us 45. Like, give us
this 45 should be the minimum on these, because all your 100%. Devices have that. All your chargers. I don't even know why there's no 25 watt chargers at this point anymore.
Yeah,
because I've tested the 45 watt charger on their phones. They don't go past 35 anyways.
I know. Exactly.
So it's like you should just be selling that by default. That should be on every one of your devices. Even if you're not going to expand the battery or change the battery tech, at least give us a super fast 2.0 on there.
Yeah,
we are so far away from the Note 7 Samsung. I know there's still nightmares of that, but we are so far away from that now. Like they should feel comfortable and being able to make that work. That gripe is one I have. And the other thing is I have the gripe with the cameras. To me, there's no excuse why this can't have the same cameras as the Ultra for the price point. And if it has to be a slightly thicker phone, then that's fine. But for this price point, you can't. And I'm an Ultra user, so my perception of this is going to be different coming from what technically is Samsung's flagship phone, because the Fold isn't their flagship device. Technically, their biggest flagship device is the Ultra. So, like, for somebody like me, that they want to transition, most likely to transition over to something like a foldable as an Ultra user, you got to make sure everything matches up one for one. And I think that the camera, it's good. No, I mean, wrong. It is good. But there isn't, to me, a reason why that shouldn't have matched up to what on the Ultra onto the Fold.
Look, you nailed it. I think it's true. And I would caveat that as somebody who's observed the Chinese, is that they are very close to flagship, but they always have to do a little less because of the thickness. But here's the thing. the reality, and again, I have an S25 Ultra as well. I've had every Ultra phone before that. Not as my main, because I'm a Pixel as my main. But the point is, as a person who's had every Ultra, I feel like there's one camera that we don't need on the Ultra anymore. And that's that 3x. That's the same 3x telephoto. Yeah. That useless 10 megapixel. That 200 megapixel sensor goes all the way to 4x, no problem. Yeah. Then have that 50 megapixel 5x take over. That's what we need next year. And I really hope they can adapt to that, because the Chinese have done it. And they've done it. Here's another thing that we can go into: the lack of S Pen support. Oppo has active digitizer front and back. Now you have to buy their pen. It's an accessory. It's as good as the S Pen was. It's just they have it built in. Same thickness, same size. So come on, Samsung, let's go with the program here.
There was no reason to.
Especially when Samsung is the poster child for the S Pen. If there is one company you associate with making a pen capable phone with really good pen capability, like iPad level pen capability, it's Samsung. So now, they're removing this feature because I think they couldn't fit it in. Honestly, I think it'll come back. But the fact that they did that, it's pissing off a whole bunch of people.
It's the way they did it, and it's not even the way they did it. It's the way they presented it to the public.
Right.
It was the problem, is how they kind of didn't say it. It was just like when they took Bluetooth out the S Pen. It's like they kind of just
that was so stupid.
They didn't say anything towards it. And yes, it is a niche feature. I get that. But it's like, you got to kind of present it in some way to say, hey, we couldn't fit this, or hey, we took this away, or hey, we added this instead of that instead, or swap something in place of it in some way, shape, or form to soften the blow, to say that, hey, this is the reason why, or we couldn't do certain things. Giving the very statistical survey answer is, and you really didn't even put that in a press release. You just told the media that, and then the media relied on them to deliver that information. I'm like, well, you're gonna get the more dramatic negative side of that if you're relying on us to put that information out there, especially if you don't have anything properly prepared for it.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that annoyed me related to this whole Ultra conversation is Ultra. They use that word. They threw it around. They were like Ultra on all the ads, and I'm like, there's nothing Ultra about this phone. I'm sorry. The only thing Ultra about this phone is the form factor, the weight and size, and you're only catching up with the competition. So come on, kudos for that. It's a great phone.
Ultra is my favorite phone. That's my mainline phone.
Gave this phone.
I'm a Note user, so that's it's my thing.
I gave it editor's choice. I think, because here's the thing, right? We can talk about the Chinese phones all we want, but the reality, most of them have to be imported. Some of them are not even available as international phones, so they don't have international ROMs, which is a problem. I mean, they get the Google stuff, but it's just, you get all these Chinese apps and weird stuff to deal with.
The common user just there's so much more work. There's so much more resistant there.
Regardless of where you get it, say you buy it in Dubai and it's the Western version of the phone, you still don't get warranty. You still don't get support. You still don't get screen replacement. You still don't get the carrier tie-in. Bands work. I've tried them. My Oppo works fine. As long as you're not using Verizon, you're good to go. But my point is, people are using Verizon. So now they have a phone that's the same level of, awesome sexiness, if you want, in terms of design, right? So all of that is valid. I want to go back to durability and repairability. Actually, repairability isn't something that we haven't talked about yet. And iFixit, of course, took this phone apart. And no surprise, and I don't want to be mean to Samsung here, because look, I also love the iFixit guys, because I'm a very much a DIYer. I have a background in electronics. I used to take apart and fix things all the time. I think it's going to be a very, very long time before Samsung can make this kind of form factor easily repairable.
I wonder if it'll ever actually happen.
I think the bar phones, look, we've seen some progress on bar phones.
Bar phones,
even Apple has made progress, because Apple has to recycle, and Samsung too, millions of units every year. And the recycling needs to be able to be done efficiently and fast. Yeah. And so repairability is not just you bringing your phone for a battery replacement. It's also the take apart and recycle the phone at the end, so we can reuse all the bits and pieces, especially the battery. Because the battery
is the bigger deal. That to me is the bigger deal.
So that's why iFix doesn't just look at what happens when your screen needs replacement or your battery needs replacement. They look at what happens to the end of life of the phone, right? And look, as much as this, I'm very conflicted about this, because I feel like we're wasting a lot out there, right? People buy new, or especially us nerds who love the phones. We get new phones all the time. And audience, hopefully all of you listening and watching on Patreon right now, right? For those of you who didn't know, there's a video version of the podcast on Patreon. You get it in advance every week, patreon.com/TNKJRL. For those of you out there, I hope you pass on your devices to your family, to your friends, you send them to, like with my review
units. I do it
units,
all the time.
Yeah, with my review units, when the manufacturers don't want them back, I give them to the women's shelter, because even though they don't have a SIM in them, they can be used as a tablet or on Wi-Fi, or like they can be used to dial 911 anytime, as long as there is a cell phone tower nearby. So, make sure you recycle your devices, because
I give mine to all my family friends.
Yeah, Apple and Samsung spend a lot of money making these phones as recyclable as possible. And so, I think I can't be too upset that iFixit is like, oh, this was a disaster. Well, like, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, this thing is also, 7 years of technology versus 15 to 20 years of development on a bar phone. I mean, that's, it's going to be a while if ever it gets to kind of that point, depending upon how we see things in the future. But even to double down on what you were saying earlier, I think it's very important that we all recycle. At least reuse or deliver phones out. I'm always doing it. Anytime I get phones in, I've actually consciously over the last 5 or 6 years tried to take in less sort of review unit phones than I did before. Because at one point, I think we easily, if you've been in the game long enough, you can have hundreds of phones sitting in your house.
You can't see it right there, folks. Behind my finger, there's a bunch of bins, and it's literally hundreds of phones. I mean, I do a big purge every 2 years, but I get a phone a week on average, because I get Chinese phones too. And the Chinese just send me everything. They're like, oh, hey. I'm like, no, I don't need this budget phone. Seriously, I don't.
So sometimes you can get sent to you and you didn't ask for it. That will happen. You didn't even ask for it. It just shows up at your house like, what's this? And,
exactly.
And I always try to, like my family gets set up on as many phones as I can. Speaking of Pixels, I'm a big Pixel fan myself. And when I was part of the Team Pixel thing.
Oh yeah, I was too, and that kind of died, right? So what do we do now?
I have so many thoughts on how that happened. But we're going to leave that for another time, because there's a lot of things that go with that.
For sure.
But I would use those a lot of times. I would get the A devices, the regular device. I would give it to the family a lot of times too.
Yeah.
My mother's a Pixel user. Like I give my mom a Pixel anytime she needs one. She loves that phone. And she doesn't. All she does is brag about it now. Anyway, she go for like the last two. She has a 6 Pro, and I was about to replace it because I had like a 7. I was like, well, I think the 6 was about to go out of software support, and then suddenly they added it back in for this last go around. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool that they were able to do that.
Yep.
And I wonder if they'll do it again. And as long as it's in software support, I'll let her do her thing.
100%. Yeah, my mom has. I think. Let's see. What does she have? We just got the 8A, right? So she has a 7. I think she has a 7A or a 6A. Anyway, let's talk about some Samsung rumors. Since, and basically that's all we have for the week. We have only leaks and rumors and a bit of news. So S25 Fan Edition is starting to kind of rumor bubble up in the rumor world. What is your take on that phone in general, and like those rumors right now? We're looking at potentially a September 19th launch of that, which is kind of pretty soon, honestly.
That's kind of odd, considering September is not a month they own.
Well, last year, I think, I want to say like the briefing for that in New York was it late September, early October. Yeah. So
usually they wait until after, Apple announces whatever they're going to do.
But how do you feel in general about the Fan Edition phone, the S Fan Edition phone?
It was a cool concept because of back again to the Note 7 era, and then that's what they kind of, a way for them to not waste what parts they had and deliver something.
It's like a part spin special.
Yeah, it's a spare parts device they kind of throw together over time. But I think this was cool until they kind of made the Certified Renew program exist.
And also all these trade-in deals that they have.
Yeah, there's so many more trade-in deals now than ever before, where there are times that you can get a phone and you can trade it in and spend less than you did than when you bought the phone originally.
Right.
2 years prior. That happened to me. I bought the 23, traded in the 25, and I spent less money getting a 25 than a 23, a second 25 than a 23. But the I get why they do it, because it did get popular. It's a great way for them to, you reuse parts, use things that they don't have before, try to discount it down. It's a great phone we launched technically a Galaxy S series device that we can that carriers can use as a free device to bring people in at a
decent phone overall.
It's a decent phone overall, but it just I think I get it. I don't know if we need it anymore, considering the certified renewed program.
100%.
So it was certified renewed, which I did a sponsor deal with them a year or so ago, and I got one of the devices, and it was amazing. It was it's last year's phone, but it felt as new, and they refreshed it with a battery. It has all the specs and everything that are automatically going to be better than whatever the FE version of that phone is, for not that different in price, not so much so.
Yeah, so I agree 100%. I mean, I feel like
warranty,
there was a time when it made sense.
Yeah,
especially when they use a Qualcomm chip in it. Now with an Exynos, I'm kind of like, I'm still like, again, we haven't talked as much about the Z Flip on the show, and I've had it now 2 weeks. Last week, I've only had it 1 week. But look, there's nothing wrong with the Exynos on that phone. It feels just fine. But battery life is oof. And performance, sustained performance, you were playing games on that thing, it throttles worse than the Fold. I was like, how is that even possible?
They didn't even talk about it at the event, really. We got an announcement, some pictures, and they flash.
Yeah,
the equivalent of flashing it across the screen and saying this exists.
Samsung is you can tell that Samsung is almost ashamed of these chips. The fact that they don't mention them. It's like, why do you bother then? Get a MediaTek chip in there.
I think they're at the point they probably have made these chips. The parts are there. What are you going to do with the parts? And it's they're going to have to deliver something on it. And they're still technically a publicly traded company somewhere.
Yeah.
So they have to deliver on some of these things. Do I think they should go back and completely rebrand Exynos and rethink it again? Because it's sad that the only people to really get any good benefit or any good power out of Exynos was Google with the Tensor, who's now going to place else, taking all that and going to TSMC.
But I'm really excited about that. We're going to talk about that in a second. So the second thing we have about Samsung, is kind of related to the Fan Edition in a way, is that they're kind of changing the lineup. And we've had rumors of this, and now it seems like I wouldn't say confirmed, but there's certification out there indicating that the S26 name is no longer existing. So the rumor, just to catch up the audience here, is that the Edge is going to replace the Plus, and that is not surprising to me.
That's not surprising.
Right? Especially if they can make the battery life better and add a telephoto or something.
I think that was the expectation.
The second rumor, and this is what we're talking about now, was that they're going to replace the base model with a model called the Pro. And I'm afraid, Warren, I'm very afraid, for those of you who like small phones, that this Pro model is going to be a larger phone, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, why bother with the Fan Edition? Because that is your Fan Edition. If you're no longer making a small phone and you're making a larger Pro model to essentially kind of cut the difference between the old Plus and the Edge, then it would still be priced under the price of the Edge, right? Let's be clear.
Yeah.
So then it's priced affordably like the S26 was, but maybe bigger. Then it's a Fan Edition. So that it's weird to me. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's gonna call the Pro, but it's a small size phone, and that would be weird to call a small size phone Pro. But okay.
It's weird for them to use a Pro moniker. That's not in there. That's never been in their design language vocabulary with pretty much, I think, the majority of their devices, especially in the Galaxy S line.
Well, maybe they're lining themselves up with the Chinese, because here's the thing, right? With the Chinese, the Chinese often has the Pro and then maybe a Pro Plus and then an Ultra, and then, I don't know. It's interesting. And to me, I don't know. My gut feeling says that they're going to drop the small phone, because it's harder and harder to pack all that technology in a small form factor. Maybe their numbers are showing that they're not selling that many.
I mean, how many of them are they really selling now? How many people do you see really with the small phone?
I do not see. I see mostly pluses out there.
And then you take a look at Apple gave up on that 4 years ago with the Mini.
Technically, Warren, technically, iPhone 16 is the same size as the S25, right?
Yeah.
It's a 6.3 inch ish?
Yeah.
6.1, 6.2, like around there.
I don't think you can sell a phone at $800 below that price, below that screen size. So it's like at that point you cut into the A lineup of type of devices at that point, which those are also coming bigger now these days too. And people watch content, they watch things on it. I can't see.
It could be that they're also going to increase the price, and that's why they're changing the name.
Oh yeah, I think they're all
right.
I think in 2026 price. 2026 is going to be price increases across.
I don't know.
With trade-ins, tariffs, things like that across the board. I think we're going to see amongst almost everyone some type of price bump to kind of exist in the market. And I think, and now I think, because I always think, okay, what's the marketing of this? And mainly Verizon, get a Galaxy S26 Pro on us, and if they could say that,
it's crazy, right?
I can $800 and I get a Pro phone because Apple has sold the Pro name so well in its phones and really in its laptops, right? They've sold this Pro moniker to things, even though it necessarily doesn't always match up to the Pro. The name doesn't always match up to the device.
Exactly.
But I think, I could see them doing it in that way, which once again makes the FE kind of like, why does this exist?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Now that you have this and you have, I really do like the Certified Renew program. I really like that idea.
No, I think this is good for all the manufacturers, honestly.
I think all of them should be doing something like this. Keep trade-in deals with that as well, too. Yep. So that people, there's a lot of people that, and I think it's really Apple users that started this.
I was going to say,
where they buy last year's phone. Yeah. They always, a lot of their users buy a phone from 1 or 2 generations ago as their new phone. They don't always buy the latest one.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that's a good segue to talk about Apple. So the rumors we have right now, there's 2 of them. One is really simple, and we kind of know this makes sense, is that the launch for this 17 series, iPhone 17, would be on September 8th. And if you look at a calendar, that actually makes kind of sense. Like I'm looking at my calendar right now. Let's see, what day of the week is that? Yeah, that's a Monday. So either that Monday or that Tuesday is when I see them launching that phone.
Because September 26th will be the actual release date. They usually release around that time. Correct. So that makes sense.
But then that's just more like a public service announcement. Like maybe mark your calendars especially if you're iPhone users. But the next thing that's really interesting is we saw pictures of the batteries for the 17 Air, the super thin phone, and the regular 17 Pro. And not only are they encased in stainless steel, which is interesting, not only that, but like you can really see how thin that battery is for the Air. It's like, wow. So, I'll again, I generally put links in the show notes. If you guys are listening to the podcast, look in your podcast app and look at the description for the podcast for that episode, and you'll see links. Click on these links. There's also some affiliate links, by the way, folks. I haven't really mentioned this much, but please support me if you can. But I always put links that are relevant. Like I will probably put a link to the Z Fold7 and probably to the Edge and maybe the Fan Edition. So, and maybe whatever Pixel phones. So check that out. Look at the show notes for the links to these stories we're talking about so that you can see those pictures of these crazy, super thin batteries, especially for the 17 Air. I'm super excited about 17. I'm not an iPhone user. I mean, I have an iPhone, but Apple is starting to send me devices, which is really exciting. I don't know if they're going to send me an Air, but I'm really looking forward to the Air because, I knew going into the Edge that there were going to be some flaws around battery life, around cameras, like lack of telephoto. But I like the idea that we're at least that's why I like foldables. It's like, I'm so sick and tired of the standardized, 8mm thick, 9mm thick, bar, glass and metal or glass and plastic phone, right? Like having something thinner, having a different shape, having curved screen, having folding folds, like that gets me. I'm like Michael Fisher for that. It's like, I want variety. And that's why I like Android more than iOS, because I can get, a crazy camera phone like this Oppo Find X8 Ultra, which has like the best cameras of pretty much anything, short of another Ultra phone from China. And it's like, that's what I'm talking about. And so the Edge got me excited. And now, even though I'm not an iPhone user, the fact that they're going to make a possibly even thinner phone, well, we pretty much know it's thinner, than the Edge, and it's called the Air, like, especially with a single camera, I want to see how they've pulled that off. Like, you know, because
what's the sacrifice going to be there with the single
well,
camera?
my theory is that they could make an ultra wide that's like 200 megapixels or 100 megapixels back there, right?
And then
zoom. Yeah, exactly. And then
whatever they made up, what's the term they made up for cropping into the center? I forgot what it was called.
Lossless something.
Some fusion thing that they made up.
Optical quality or whatever they said.
Yeah.
But my point is we have AI zooming algorithms now that could do that. So like, you know, there's rumors, and we're going to get to that in a second, that Pixel has some crazy new algorithms for that. So
I trust them to do that more. Like, does Apple have the AI to be able to do that? That's the question.
Imaging is a different thing, right? We're not talking generative AI here. We're not talking about like Siri stuff. We're talking about machine learning, you know, diffusion models, that kind of stuff. You know, in the same way as, you know, Stable Diffusion. You give it a description, and it's essentially, if you look at it, if you see it generate the image in real time, it starts with noise. And from the noise, your image grows out. So now instead of starting with noise, imagine you start with a shape that represents that zoomed in, you know, really bad, like pixelated crop of the sensor, right? Like that, you know,
really bad
mushy zoom quality picture. And now imagine you use a Stable Diffusion to... Like, that is the kind of AI I'm talking about. So that's stuff that Apple could have perfected. The Chinese have. This Oppo phone, for example, I can zoom at 60x, 120x on this and get some really clear photos. So they're using something like that. You can turn it off. There's a button in there, AI, turn off AI zoom, and then it acts normal, and then it doesn't look as good. You know, then it does, you know, the kind of super res zoom type stuff, and it's not quite as good. But I think, you know, Pixel's definitely, like, they've had super res zoom. I think they're working on something for that. Samsung's way behind here because we've seen the results even on the Z Fold7. The telephoto doesn't help. And
they were the kings of zoom for like the longest time.
Well, you know, anybody can be the king of zoom with hardware. It's the software stuff that they need, right? So I'm really excited to see what Apple brings to the table with the Air overall.
Yeah, I am too, to see what they bring into that space. Perfect name for it. For them.
Perfect name for it.
And who's the target audience, and kind of links on to that, and the price point will be key for that, I think, as well too. And how they put that out there. And
I think it's going to position between. I feel like it's going to replace the
Plus,
you know, the Plus, the large one. So it's going to probably be slightly less than a Pro, but close. Or maybe they'll justify charging a little more for the sexiness. And you know what? I don't put it past Apple. But here's the thing, like, as much as, you know, I'm always advocating people should buy their phones direct from the manufacturer, unlocked, and never buy from the carrier. I know a lot of you don't have that option. You're in a family plan or whatever. You're a Verizon, for example. Like, you really have your choice of devices narrows down real fast, mostly because the Chinese phones don't support Verizon well at all. So my point I'm making is that I don't blame you, listeners, if you need to go with like a subsidized phone through a carrier. But my choice is always to buy full price. The reality, most of you get subsidies. And if you get a subsidy, you won't notice the difference in price between a 16 Plus new last year and a 17 Air new this year. It's going to be $1, $2 more a month or something or whatever, right? Like, I think that's the thing we have to remember, is that as much as the, you know, inflation has been terrible, the tariffs are even worse. We can kind of obfuscate this from the consumer, the users, by, you know, subsidies, right?
Subsidies
and trade-ins, and as you said, refurbish, right? So I think I'm very hopeful that pricing is not really going to be a big problem for most people, especially for the Apple crowd, right?
Yeah,
they're willing to, like, they're going to see this thing at a store and go like, oh, like, you know, they're the people who didn't even bat an eye about the Edge, didn't care about the Edge because it was a Samsung phone. And then they're going to see this thing and they're going to be like, this is the biggest thing since sliced bread. I can guarantee you that when they show this at their event, they're going to make it out to be like the most advanced technological device ever created by Apple.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like I'm saying?
I'm
sorry, my English accent is terrible. I'm trying to channel John Ives and failing miserably.
Oh, no, they're definitely going to do that. And whatever they price it at, I'm assuming around 9 to 10, somewhere between there, that they'll put it at. I think their audience will be very interested in, especially if the trade-in is at least decent, depending upon if you go to carriers or with them directly, will cut that price down significantly. And that's what we always have to remember. Like, you see the MSRP that get launched for something, but almost everyone pays a different price depending upon their trade-ins, their deals, their, where they're at. So not everybody's, very few people are usually paying that full price straight out.
100%. Let's switch to Google Pixel 10 series news. So obviously the event is on the 20th. We all know this. This is official. But there's rumors now, but kind of going to lump these two together a bit, that the Pro Fold, like last year, is going to be released a little later. So it's going to be shown and announced, and we're going to get hands-on and stuff on the 20th. But we're not going to get to be able to buy it until probably October. And that doesn't surprise me. The same thing happened last year. But what's more interesting to me, because I'm a camera phone nut and I've been using mobile photography since phones had cameras, is some of the rumors. And again, I've heard, I don't know if it's included in this story, but I've heard rumors of improved zoom algorithms using diffusion. But here is some cool stuff. Apparently you'll be able to tell Gemini just to edit your photos. You're going to be able to say, hey, Gemini, take this photo and crop it to be, a little bit this way, or fix a perspective on this, or make it brighter. It's a little too red. That actually has got me excited, because the average person wants to edit their photos. And I'm sorry, but the latest version of Google Photos, by the way, if you I don't know if you've received, it's terrible.
I use Google Photos all the time.
But it's a nightmare. Did you get the new version? It's missing perspective correction. You can't revert to the original. If you re-edit a photo that you've already edited, it cancels all your previous edits. It's a nightmare. If you haven't received, I'm on the beta program. It's horrendous.
I don't think I'm on the beta. I think I'm on the system.
And so I think the reason it's horrendous is because they're going to want you to talk to Gemini to do it. Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting, because are people going to know what to say to get the right thing, or type in whatever to get
that's my problem, right? I want deterministic results, right? I don't mind using voice or typing. You'll be able to type because it's Gemini, right? But I don't mind being able to say, fix a perspective on this so that the top line lines up and the bottom line lines up. But if it doesn't then do what I wanted, what do I do then? How do I fix that? How do I correct my prompt? Then I have to become a prompt expert, when normally I could just open the Photos app and just do my thing. But again, they're removing some of the features and they're making it weird. Like the new interface basically now, it shows you the phone. First of all, they separated all the color editing from the light editing. So anything that, right now you have all the brightness, shadows, all that stuff. And then right after there's a section for saturation, blah, 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 color balance, whatever. And then after that, there's a section for, what's it called? Pop and a bunch of other I think there's a sharpness and softness, that's all separated in different areas now. The first thing you get when you open up is you can immediately crop. But instead of cropping with they round off the image so you can't see the corners of it anymore. They're using the little handles to crop are round. You lost the perspective tool's gone, so you can't correct perspective anymore at all. And then immediately if you draw on the picture, immediately it selects a part and lets you do things like, redraw, move, scale, delete. So basically they're going straight into the Gen AI stuff.
Yeah, they're going right into
cropping. And I don't mind personally that they're doing that. What I mind is that they're removing features. I don't care if they rearrange the UI a little bit. I can find my way. But removing features, and then here's the worst part. You hit save, and it saves the image, right? You go, oh, you know what? That's perfect. But I want to go back in now. Now I've done a bunch of crops. I've adjusted the levels. I'm happy with the photo. But I'm realizing, the tint is a little off. Let me go back in there and edit the tint. Guess what it does? Sorry, we have to revert your image to default to do your edits. So all the edits you just did, unless you hit save as new the previous time, then you can get what you want. It's really weird. And then you're going to say, can I revert? No, you can't revert. You cannot revert. You cannot revert. Once you've done edits, you've done the edits.
That's wow. That sounds like they're doing that all. Are they doing it all on device? And the limitation is to save. And the limitation is to saving.
I think you're right. I think it might be on device.
It might. It has to be.
Anyway, I just had to rant because my audience knows this. They've listened to me since the Engadget days. It's been over a decade, more than that now. I will rant good.
Oh, yeah.
And I am so pissed about this because here's the thing. I'm a heavy Google Photos user. Why? Look, Snapseed's good. but it's not as easy to it's not as easy to use.
Google Photos
I
is the
will
king
never
to me
use
on
an Adobe
Android.
product. I am sorry, I'm not paying a subscription to get full access to the features.
Fully agree.
I refuse.
I cut Adobe off and everything.
And I am using, like, on my Mac right now, because I'm a Mac user, I use Affinity, which is kind of like the Photoshop equivalent. And honestly, I paid the license. I'm on an old version now. I'm not going to upgrade. I'm very happy with what I have until it stops working and they tell me, forced me to upgrade and pay my another $50. I don't mind paying $50, $100 every 3 or 4 years, but like this $12 a month, $20 a month, $50, get the hell out of here. Sorry, guys.
I cut that back in 2019. I remember I got so sick of Adobe and the pricing, and I replaced everything. I used DaVinci.
So what are my options, right? You're going to say, well, there are a few other editors out there, but I've used them and none of that get to. And also the nice thing about Google Photos, it's integrated right into the Photos app. I'm a Pixel user. It's right there. So I am, and there's a bunch of Reddit threads about this new Google editing stuff, and people are pissed. And I'm hoping that Google sees the feedback. I've actually sent them feedback. I've told them, and I've done screenshots, and I've said, this is broken, this is not working. And they've already said that the perspective feature will come back. They don't know how yet. But like the fact that you can't, if you've edited already and you didn't say save a copy, all your edits are going to be lost if you try to re-edit. Like, who thought of that?
That is
like, that was one of the best features, right? Remember, you'd save and you'd be like, oh, I could go right back and change and continue from where I was at. And then there was always that revert to original button.
Yeah.
If you screwed up too much, none of that is there.
Oh, that's good. That's
so
not good.
My rant is over.
I'm a big Google Photo user. I'm a big Google Photo user.
Don't upgrade.
Myself.
So it's
I'm not on the beta. That's probably why I haven't seen it.
For those of you who are not on the beta, and once you get that feature, the trick is you can revert. I've reverted to 7.36. That's the version you want to revert to. You can find that on APK Mirror. So the way to revert, by the way, and this is a public services announcement, it goes in the settings and under apps, go to Google Photos, select Google Photos and go uninstall. And what it'll do is it'll revert it to whatever it was in your ROM at the base, right? So like if you're on a Pixel 9 right now, whatever it launched with, right? At that point, it's a version below 7.36. So you can then go to APK Mirror, manually download the APK. The no DPI version is what you want. You want ARM V8, right? Obviously, because it's an ARM-based chip. So install that. And then you make sure you don't have auto updates turned on. So go to Google Play Store and remove auto updates. Then remember though, you're gonna have to manually update all your other apps every now and then, right? So because if you update all, then you're updating your photo app, then you have to go back and do it all again. But right now I'm in this weird limbo when I'm using the old version on my Pixel because I've downgraded it. But the fact that I have to do that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the Pixel news. I've got a device here that I want to talk about real quick. And it's not really in my line normally it's like kind of outside of my lane of devices because, I used to work in video games, but I'm not like a huge gamer myself, even though I appreciate it. So this is the Razer BlackShark V3 Pro. And as you can see, it is a gaming headset with a microphone boom. And it's wireless, of course. It's very nice. It's got a whole bunch of, so there's a nice big volume knob here. You've got a USB-C port. By the way, you can use this without the battery, like with dead battery, using a cable that's included USB-C to 3.5 millimeter. So you can actually use it fully analog. At that point, you lose the noise canceling. But if your battery dies, you can still use this thing. It has a bunch of buttons here. There's a physical on and off, like, look at that. It's got a little green accent and you can actually physically mute yourself. Like you can feel the feedback on the button. And then on the other side here, there's noise canceling settings. The cool thing about this headset is it's Bluetooth, but it's also working with the 2.4 gigahertz low latency dongle from Razer, USB-C. You plug that into any computer and it instantly this pairs and it works. You can select to have Bluetooth connected or the 2.4 gigahertz, or both at the same time. And if you have both at the same time, you can have like a phone call with your buddies, or like a Zoom call, or like a Discord, or whatever you want call on your phone or on your tablet via Bluetooth while you're playing your game low latency on your PC. And there's a volume button here that lets you adjust how much of the Bluetooth versus how much of the 2.4 gigahertz. And it's got left and right written in here in the cups. Very nice. The mic here is detachable. It's just a standard analog jack. There's nothing fancy about it. The sample rate on the mic is 48 kilohertz, so it's actually really high quality. But in my experience, this mic doesn't sound as good as a proper mic or even a studio mic on a MacBook, which is what Warren's using right now. So be aware that even though it does 48 kilohertz a mic, I would not use this mic for podcasting. This mic is good enough for, definitely for gaming, esports, whatever you're doing, for voice conversations. It's not a high definition, high quality, high fidelity mic. Absolutely not. Razer might want to sell it that way, and I'm sorry guys, but my tests say no. But it's cool looking. It comes in white. It also has an Xbox edition and a PlayStation edition, which have like some stitching that matches green and blue. You can get it in black as well if you want. Sound quality is amazing. I'm super picky about sound. Having worked in audio in video games as a programmer coding audio for years before I was a journalist. I'm kind of an audiophile, but I don't want to say that because audiophile is kind of like a little excessive. I am a cheap audiophile. Like I like my audio to be good but affordable. And this thing sounds freaking amazing, and you can change the EQ. You can also change the EQ for the microphone if you use the Razer Synapse app, and you can get the Razer Synapse app on your phone as well. So I hope that gives you a quick review. What I'll do is I'll insert right here a sample of what the microphone sounds like so you can hear it. And this is what the Razer BlackShark V3 Pro sounds like using the boom microphone attached to the headphones. And that way you have a feel for like what I mean by the sound quality of this mic is not for podcasting, as you can clearly hear. But yeah, look, overall, this is a pretty great product. It's improved in every way from the previous generation. I really like having that dongle for low latency. Because here's the thing, Warren. I don't know if you do that. You edit video, right? All the time. You know this.
Oh, all the time, yeah.
You need to be wired, right? Because you want to sync the audio and the video, right?
Yeah,
guess what?
much.
This is less than 10 milliseconds latency.
Okay,
you can use it wired and edit and sync. It's almost like having an analog connection. And I'm really impressed with that because to me, that's a deal breaker. Like I cannot edit wireless. And this is the first device that I can actually edit wireless with. So that's got me really excited.
That's exciting.
I don't know the pricing off the top of my head. I will put a link in the show notes with the pricing. But yeah, it's I think, the same usual like $299, something like that, right? But the sound quality, like I've been using it without the mic with the mic unplugged as just like to listen to Bluetooth audio on my Mac and on my phone. They're really good. Like they sound almost as good as my super high end studio Beyerdynamics, right? So like that really impressed me. I did not expect that. But the mic, no, don't use the mic unless of course, you're doing esports and gaming. That's totally fine. The mic is fine. But like for podcasting, cannot use these. So that's it. That's my quick review of the Razer BlackShark V3 Pro. Any thoughts on audio devices? Do you have like a preference? Are you like a Bose guy or a Sony guy when it comes to like headphones on planes? What are your favorite earbuds? If you have any, like tell me about it.
For me, lately now when I travel, like I don't use my headphones as much. I'm just kind of falling asleep now more often on the plane.
Okay. But you don't want the noise canceling? Like, because for me, it's the noise of the plane,
No, I actually, that helps me in terms of fall asleep and stuff. So that I'm perfectly okay with that. But in terms of like what I particularly prefer, I prefer over the head headphones most of the time.
What are you using right now? I can't really tell.
Oh, these are some old Plantronics ones, PLT brand. I forgot what model.
Okay, so just really like basic
ones that are at the time, these are probably like 6 or 7 years old, but just a pair that I found. Because I have a ton of pair. I have some old.
Oh yeah, me too. They're everywhere.
From Blue and I have some Sony ones as well too. What I typically use on a daily basis tends to be the Liberty 4 Pros, just because of the convenience and it can fit in well. Most of the time, I'm not a big earbud fan because most of the earbuds don't fit in my ear or stay in my ear very well. So it's like, so I usually use that out of convenience more so than actually like wanting to sit down and kind of listen and enjoy music in that way. But I would say my preference is over the air. If I use noise canceling, it's usually Sony. Is what I typically like to go with. The pressure can be a little much sometimes, but I know you can adjust that.
Yeah, you can just like generally most headphones you can pull back a bit, and then the spring kind of like softens a bit. By the way, speaking of noise, these have noise A and C, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
Is it as good as the Sony's or that I have, like, the XM6s, XM5s, XM4s even? No. Is it good enough? Yes, 100%. Like, or especially around the house, if you are, you want to drown out the street noise, like I'm pointing out my windows right there or something, like it's good enough for that. I don't know if they'd be good enough on a plane, but I haven't tested them on a plane because it's a little bulky. So there's also no case for them. So like, how do I carry them on a plane?
Yeah, that's the other thing always with over-the-ear headphones. I love them, but they're also the bulky ones to carry around with. So it can be a little.
I do like that they look kind of retro, that vibe with the little metal, the metal thing here. But honestly, yeah, I was surprised. Razer reached out and said, I'm like, I'm not a gamer, guys. Like, you should save these for somebody who really cares. And they're like, well, we want your thoughts on the sound because you're a podcaster. I was like, oh, okay, I play game. I play game for that. As long as you don't expect me to review it like with sporty stuff, right? Because I'm not my lane. Anyway, let's move on to more news items. There's a few more things for us to talk about. Sony's Xperia phones are no longer sold in the US. I'm a big fan because I'm a big fan of camera phones. And
I have a small rant about them, but go
I want to hear that. So preface is Sony, as you know, is no longer selling in the US, but some people might hate their phones and totally understand that because there are problems and they're expensive. But as a alpha user for cameras and as a camera phone person, I do admire what they've been doing over the years. And there's a certain premiumness and vibe and feel to these phones that nobody can replicate. And I feel like I'm very happy to hear that a Sony like high-end level executive has finally said, no, we're not, just because it looks like we're drowning here like HTC did and like LG did. We are not
very LG-ish.
Yeah, we're not abandoning the Xperia line. And I'm like, yes, thank God.
Then put it into the US.
They've got to bring it back, right? It's a niche product at this point. Why don't you just bring it to us, right?
Yeah, the thing is, for Sony, and I've Xperia phones I've played around with for years, even back when they were. I remember the last one I released for Verizon was actually, I forgot the model number. It was almost 10 years ago, but it was a really nice phone and high end coming from Sony, and it's just Sony has all the tools to compete against everyone. If we go back to 2012 to 2015, when the Android race was really competitive between Samsung, LG, Motorola, and HTC, your big four players in that sort of space, Sony should have been in there competing and should have easily been number one or number two and oscillating between. Like, it should be them and Samsung competing in this space because they have the hardware. They can make Sony's weak spot has always been the software, and that's across the board. Almost every devices, even their cameras, even though their cameras UI has gotten a whole lot better now. But they could compete in this space because they have the hardware, they have the cameras, they have the design, the looks. They're one of the few people that are still putting high quality headphone jacks inside their phones. They still have external storage you can add into it. They create a nice looking user interface the majority of the time. Now they went away from Timescape UI, the horror that was, and they usually have good battery life and great camera features, great video recording features as well on smartphones as well. They have all these tools, and it's like they just kind of go. It's just this third back burner idea that will release to parts of Europe and in Asia and in Japan because we're from there, so we have to release it here, and then that's it.
Yeah. Here's the problem with Sony. I think in general, I've been following that company forever because, I'm a big audio nerd. And so obviously, I had a mini disc player early on. I had a digital audio tape recorder early on because I'm old. Hi-Fi gear was a thing for me when I was a teenager.
I had a Sony Walkman.
You had a Walkman. You know
cassette tape and the CD
everything.
player.
I've had Walkman. I've had Discman. I've had everything from Sony. And they always shoot themselves in the foot because they don't let their divisions work together.
No,
it's like,
not at all.
It took so long finally for them to get some cool features from the Alpha team on, like, they didn't have OIS for the longest time on their Xperia phones. Guys, you're the ones who make all the best sensors with OIS. Yes. Why are you not now they've corrected that, right? But my point is like they do shit like that all the time. And it's like,
Sony's a company. Sony is an umbrella company to 17 different companies working underneath it that don't like to communicate with each other for whatever reason that is.
The only thing they've done that I think where they've kind of managed to integrate a little better is PlayStation, because it's so heavily driven by the Western market in the US, right?
Well, that's their baby, so they have to put
baby,
that into it.
But disclaimer, I used to work for Sony Computer Entertainment, so I have some inside info. And also I've heard since I left, which was, a decade and a half ago now, that, there's been a lot of fights with Japan to really make sure they understand that the division need to collaborate, like for stuff to work, like, and I think we're seeing the Xperia is not in that space. Xperia doesn't have a foreign part of Sony fighting for the good cause. And that's why we're seeing this disconnect in the Sony Xperia line. I am a big fan. I'm happy to hear this, but at the same time, bring them back to the US. And more importantly, we need improvements in software in general, like that. So,
they have. So I remember seeing the Xperia I and going, that is so exciting what they're doing with this camera here.
Oh my God, it was so cool.
And this is so cool. I know it's a high price point, but I'm like, this is never going to get released anywhere else. And it's just going to be this thing that kind of just exists. And here's this cool tech thing that we did. And that's about all it sums up to. And like Sony, like you have every facet to compete against Samsung, not just in phones. In nearly everything. People forget they used to make laptops a long time ago. But
all the Vio laptops. I love
Vio laptops, which still exist as a brand somewhere.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
And monitors and displays, they have all this stuff, and
they still have all that stuff for sure.
And it's just
I'm a big Sony fangirl. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm happy to hear this, but at the same time, I'm also they need to do better. Let's move on. There's a few more items we need to wrap up on. There is Motorola's Brilliant Collection. And that is, when they launched the Razer, they also launched a new set of earbuds. They're like the loop kind, they're open earbuds. They're not noise canceling. They're not in your ear. They just kind of hang off like earrings kind of deal.
Earrings, yeah.
And they had announced a partnership with Swarovski to bling them up. But now we're getting a collection, basically. It's a Razer 25, which is surprising. It's not the Plus or the Ultra. And of course these and there's a Razer 60, which is their base in other parts of the world. And of course these earbuds, the open buds, all together, Buds Loop, that's what they're called, Moto Buds Loop. All blinged out with Swarovski in this beautiful, actually I really dig this color. I'm not sure I dig the Swarovski stuff as much, but I do get this kind of diamond shaped design on the phone. That's really cool. What do you think of all this? I love what Moto's doing with this kind of fashion angle that they're going after. They're just nailing it.
It's nice. They got this nice fashion angle look. I understand why they would use probably cheaper to use the base model to do something to a sort of.
It's $9.99 and you get the loops and the phone of your choice. So you can get in the US because it's a Razer 2025, and then the rest of the world it's a Razer 60. But so I just like it. I think this is a nice color.
I like the
Melt
color.
is the Pantone color, but I do like this kind of weird, padded, whatever diamond shaped finish on the back of the phone.
Forgot what that design is called on the back. There's a luxury name to it. I just can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I'm totally blanking too on that. But the point is, it's got a little Swarovski crystal at every intersection of every diamond, and that I could do without personally. But I have to say, it's cool. It's cool if that's your thing. It's cool, dude. I'm into that.
I think this is nice. I think it's I like seeing them. I like seeing companies going to those unique sort of collaborations like they used to a lot in the past. So having these, if it's not necessarily meant to be a big seller. It's meant to be sort of a unique device that maybe only a few will get, but the few that get that, it's either a collector's item for them or they do want to use it and they like the look and they like that design and it fits their aesthetic. And I think it's pretty cool that they do these things. It shakes things up. It makes things different. It makes things unique and exciting. To definitely in a space that a lot of things all kind of look all the same. So it's kind of nice to change things up.
I really love that Moto's pushing fashion.
I do think they should look at this blue color as a standard color.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Blue is very hot right now on phones, so I think it'd be great. OnePlus 15 rumors here. So the OnePlus 13S or 13T. I actually got a review in it for a couple of weeks. I showed it to you on the podcast before, folks, if you go back a few episodes. This is the mini phone, the mini flagship that they sell in India and China. In China, it's 13T. In India, it's 13S. It's a Snapdragon 8 Elite based flagship, but it's a small one like the S25 is. And I mean, small, obviously not iPhone mini is small, but it's fully spec'd. The only thing it was missing, which was really weird, was an ultra wide. It has a telephone on a regular, but nothing. I think that's a bad choice in general, but I don't know. Maybe it's the market research for India or whatever. The point is, though, that phone has a very unique design. It kind of looks a lot like the camera, that square camera pod that is in the back of the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, but kind of rotated 90 degrees. And that design is supposedly coming to the OnePlus 15 when it comes out. And of course, the rumors have been for a while now that the Hasselblad partnership is not going to exist on the OnePlus 15, which really bums me out because Oppo just announced not too long ago that they were renewing their partnership, and Oppo is a sister brand. So I kind of want to put that one in quotes right now. Let's wait and see what happens. It's possible that OnePlus is losing the Hasselblad partnership and Oppo is keeping it, but it's also possible that this is a false rumor. But the design, I love that design, and I think it looks cool. And I'll link to a GSM Arena story so you guys can look at what it looks like. Any thoughts on that, Warren?
It looks pretty cool. I like like I said, the camera. That camera hump is definitely the module. Looks very much like the OnePlus Fold. I like the looks of it. I like whenever they make a unique look on the back of their phones. Whenever a phone manufacturer takes the cameras and tries to make something unique that's like signature to them, and this is one of these cases. Like I like that this look that they're putting on the back here for it.
So let's wait and see. But there's also rumors the screen might not be a Quad HD display. But honestly, you'll live. It's fine. You got to save money someplace, and I think most people won't notice. Most people are running their Quad HD screens at 1080p by default anyway. But what's more exciting to me, and I've got a few phones here already with this, Warren. This is a trend right now, especially in mid-range phones in China. 7,000 milliamp hour. I've got two phones with that. So this phone supposedly is going to get 7,000 to 7,500 milliamp, and they're not thicker. This is silicon carbon, 120 watt charging. Like we're seeing this on $350 phones, not in China, in India and Vietnam, like Chinese brands, but not sold just in China. And it's happening. So bring it on is what I'm saying. Like
how much longer
2-day battery life?
How much longer can you keep this out of the US before
Well, think about it. The OnePlus 13 as a 6,500, 6,200, whatever it is. That is more than the 20 watt hour allowed per cell because it has two cells. So by having two cells, there's no law that says you can't have two cells. No. So then you're solving the problem. So what we need is these phones to come. Like they exist. We just need them to come. There's no certification issue here. So let's find out.
It's crazy to think because you don't have to know this is like we're getting battery life back to the days of flip phones.
Exactly.
And that is crazy to think about that 20 years later, we're going back to flip phones. Well, depending on the age of the audience, you didn't realize flip phones, you charged back then maybe every 2 to 3 days. Maybe some people, if they weren't really big users of their phone, it could be once a week.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely unheard of today. But to see it go back to that is pretty cool. And I want to see that on American phones. I really do want to see that.
Well, I think it's going to be, I've been saying for the third or fourth podcast now in a row that I think by 2028, every mid-range phone will have 10,000 milliamp hour and be the same thickness. This is coming. It's inevitable. Realme has already shown a prototype of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of another former BBK Group brand, Vivo has a V60 series coming. This is a PSA, just basically for those of you who are a big fan of the Vivo mid-range phones, August 12th, mark your calendar. If you're India, I know a lot of my audience is in India right now. This phone is really hot because it's got the Zeiss camera system from their flagship, but at a mid-range price with like a Snapdragon 7 Gen 4 or something. Again, there's nothing too crazy here. It's a plastic phone, like mid-range, but expect really good cameras like always the V series has, big battery, and decent specs and performance overall. That's triple 50 megapixel basically, which is exciting. So basically like 50 megapixel selfie, 50 megapixel main, 50 megapixel telephoto. There's an ultra wide on there too. Okay, good. It's probably not a 50 megapixel. But anyway, these phones are always great for cameras. That's why I brought it up, because if you're looking for importing a decent mid-range phone that works relatively well with, a Snapdragon chip, so it's got all the bands for the US, and you want Zeiss, like basically think Hasselblad or Leica kind of level performance on a mid-ranger, one of them. I don't know if you knew that. I don't know if you're familiar with the V60 or the V series in general. It's pretty hot.
No, not too familiar with. I know Vivo, but I haven't been.
Yeah, it's kind of like their secret weapon. It's Realme also makes a super high end camera phone that is priced as a mid range phone, and I kind of dig that. Like if you don't really care about playing games or you just want a phone that works fine, you don't need that super high end flagship chipset, but then you want a really good camera. That's the way to. And you don't care if like the case is plastic and you're just gonna put your own case on it or whatever.
You're going to put a piece of plastic over it anyways.
And generally the nice thing is they don't skimp on other things. Like they don't have big batteries, fast charging. They don't have wireless charging usually, but they have usually always have an OLED 120 hertz, like super high quality, like 6.7 inch.
Wow.
Like you're getting the good stuff. It's just you're not getting the best stuff, but you're only getting the best stuff on the camera side, which is, I think, an interesting niche. I think we're kind of getting that with the Pixel A series, right? We're getting the really good cameras with kind of a mid-range phone underneath. Yeah. So I dig it. The last item we have, and I want to hear your thoughts on that real quick, is like rumors of a Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. So rumors that in addition to the 8S series, which is kind of like their cheaper flagship chipset, in addition to the Elite, which is going to be their highest end, like super awesome, we might get a kind of in the middle flagship chip. So and that would be called the, 8 Gen something. So we get the 8S Gen, the 8 Gen, and the 8 Elite. And I have a feeling that this might get renamed the Snapdragon 8 Plus instead of 8 Elite. Because on the laptops they have the Plus.
This is what I was about to say. This is what it sounds like they're doing. They're matching themselves up to how their laptop branding works with their cell phone, mobile device processors. That would make more sense to kind of put in that mid-range sort of space. Inside
well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see in September. I'll be there in Maui. I'll let you guys know. But I'm interested to see how that pans out because, MediaTek kind of has the same thing. They have like the 9400, which is the middle, 9400 Plus, which is the high end. And then they have the 9400E, which is like detuned economy version, right?
Yeah.
And they're priced differently and they perform close. But I think, we're starting to see this, right? The 8S Gen 4 is in the Nothing Phone 3. A lot of people bitched about that because they're like, well, why didn't they call it a real flagship, but they didn't put an 8 Elite in there? Well, when you're a small manufacturer like Nothing, it costs a lot of money to get the best chip. I would love to see have an 8 Elite. I'd be on board, but I don't think it's a bad compromise.
No, it's not. And I think I don't think enough people in the mobile space, probably they're in the smartphones, so understand how chip manufacturing works.
Oh yeah,
it's like, hey, you get it. It's the same chip. It's just like, where does this test out at? And
exactly
wherever it tests out at is where it lands. And
they often bin them like that. Yeah,
the binning. That's what I really said.
The Galaxy binning. Edition of the 8 Elite is a good example of that.
Yeah, it's just binning. You're not getting anything terrible out of that. You're getting the best of what they have of that generation. And in truth, like a company like Nothing isn't going to make the sales or the yield to. They can't buy enough to make it cheap enough for them to do that. And they're price sensitive because they're very popular in India. They're super price sensitive. They really have to keep it down. Yeah.
Warren, let's wrap up. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, where your various social media handles are, where you're active? Of course, tell them your YouTube channel and anything else you're doing.
Mostly active on YouTube at youtube.com/BWOne. If you search that, you should see me pull up onto there. I'm also on Instagram on the BWOne.com, but just spelled BLTCOM, kind of whole way spelled out. And that's the same for TikTok as well. And on Twitter, although I'm not as active on Twitter, I am on there as well. Then I also I have my own full website, which I know a rare thing. I still have one of those. I'm from the old school, so that's where we started off at.
Yeah, I know.
And that's at BWOne.com. Post some stuff there as well too.
So folks, go listen to Warren's videos, watch them, subscribe to all the things. Talk to both of us on social media about this podcast. You know where to find me. I'm at Tankerl, TNKGRL, on all the platforms. That's like the comic book character Tankerl, just drop all the vowels. So it's just the consonants. And then you have my handle on Twitter, which I don't use much, but I'm also mostly active on Blue Sky, on Threads, on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok. Well, I have a handle, but I don't really spend time there much. Let's see. I've got Mastodon too, but I don't use it either. So I got them all. But interact with us on social if you want. Questions and comments and thoughts. And then the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. Obviously, that's the website. There is basically a way to subscribe to all the different platforms there if you want to go there. There's also an RSS feed if you want old school and you want to catch that with an old podcast app or some kind. But Spotify, Google, of course, YouTube Music. We got Apple Podcasts. We got it all. So you'll find me by typing, Mobile Tech Podcasts and my handle TNKGRL, because there's a bunch of mobile tech podcasts out there. And subscribe if you can. That'd be great. And if your app lets you rate or review the show, please do that. That would be really nice. Then finally, there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. There's a bunch of videos there from time to time. I did a hands-on with all the Samsung phones at the Unpacked event recently. So you'll find that there. And then the Patreon. If you've heard a few times, I've shown these Razer headphones before, right? So if you want to see video content that matches this audio version and get it in advance, all you have to do is pay $5 a month on Patreon. And every week you get a podcast a day in advance with extra goodies. Sometimes you get bloopers in there. Sometimes I've got, whatever it might be. So please support me if you can through patreon.com/TNKGRL. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Warren, thanks so much for joining me. So good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. I've had a good time here.
Awesome. Well, listen, we'll have you on again in the future. And folks, we'll have a show next week. So stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.